welcome back to my channel. My name is Ivana. I like to read, and today we're going to talk about books for the winter. When I think about the winter, I think about many different things. I think about extremes, right? Extreme temperatures, hibernation, rest, depression, introspection, a lot of different things. I'm going to share some recommendations as well as books that are on my TBR that fit the many moods of winter. I have 10 books total, and we're going to get started. In the winter, I feel like I have a lot of time to reflect, and I have a lot more patience for books that are a little bit plotless. So my first recommendation is going to be Intimacies by Kitamura. I read this book like 2 years ago. Thank you to Past Me for reviewing it. So Intimacies centers on a woman who is an interpreter at the International Criminal Court in The Hague. She has a lot going on in her mind. The book is pretty much plotless, but it's just so interesting, all of the ideas that run through her mind. And some of these include this idea of home and what makes a home, especially for people who don't have a country to claim as their own or who can't go back home. It also touches on the identity and self and who you are and how that changes based on the context, like what language you're speaking or where you're at. This book also deals with language, and I just think that books about language are so fascinating. The narrator has such a high stakes job, and her interpretation is invaluable, and it also touches on the idea of like what interpretation is versus what translation is. And I feel like we're getting in the weeds right now, but it's just a book that made me think a lot. It also made me think about the term intimate friend in Spanish, and how when you say that someone's your intimate friend or your íntimo amigo in Spanish, it means that they're a close friend of yours. And I think that in English, at least, when we talk about friends who we're close to, or when we talk about people that we're close to, the word intimate has a more sexual connotation. It's not necessarily just about trusting someone. This was honestly like one of the first literary fiction books that I read, and I really, really appreciated it and all the ideas. So if you're looking for a book about ideas, I strongly recommend Kitamura's Intimacies. The next two books are also deeply introspective, but they're also pretty plot heavy, like very plot heavy. And they are two Isabel Allende books, The House of the Spirits, or La Casa de los Espíritus, and Eva Luna. I feel like Isabel Allende has become an author who is very commercial, and she just like churns out books year after year, but I feel like these two are the ones of hers that I've read. I've only read 3 of her novels, but these two were 2 books that were really immersive and that I got lost in, especially Eva Luna, which is all about storytelling and a girl who's a storyteller and the power of stories. The House of the Spirits is more of a family saga, and it has to do with revolution and change. I just think that Isabel Allende is just a really nice author to read in the wintertime, and even though her books can be hits or misses, I think that these are 2 that I greatly enjoyed and that I think you might too. I distinctly remember reading both of these at a coffee shop near a fireplace, and it was just so nice. And so yeah, if you're ever in the mood for a book that you can, take a month to read and that is just gonna have like beautiful passages, I feel like these 2 I recommend. They're also very sensual. I just really enjoyed them. Alright, so now we're gonna switch genres a little bit, and this next one I think is a booktube darling, and for good reason, and it is Lonely Castle in the Mirror. This is the UK cover of the book. This one is about a group of 7 teens in Tokyo who are transported into this magical castle when the mirrors in their respective rooms start like shimmering. And so they're only there for a set amount of time. They can't stay past 5 p.m. or they will be punished, and we don't know what that is. And they get to become friends, and they get to spend time with each other and learn about why they're there. This book, even though it had 7 characters, each character had a distinct voice. And it was just really sweet. It's fantasy, it's young adult, and this is just a cozy book that you can read before bed, like little by little, in like a month or a couple of weeks. I personally read it like that at the start of this year, and it really soothed my soul. So this one is for the dreary days, and I know that we have a lot of those in Boston. It just goes down like a cup of hot tea. The next book I'm going to recommend is also from a different genre, and this one is actually thriller, and I don't normally read thrillers. This is a Japanese thriller. Lonely Castle in the Mirror was also Japanese, and it was translated from Japanese into English. And this next book is The Woman in the Purple Skirt. I really love a lot of Japanese literature. I like short sentences, I like short chapters, I like things that are matter of fact, and I'm not saying that all Japanese books are like that. There are obviously exceptions, but I just love how like like dry it can feel, and the matter-of-factness, I love that it's just there and there's not a lot of flowery language. And again, when I think about the winter, I think about extremes, and so this book is like very plot heavy. It's about a woman, I believe, in a yellow cardigan who is obsessed with a woman in a yellow skirt and who like cares deeply about her in her own voyeuristic way, and just madness ensues, and she is just trying to get this woman a job even though they've never spoken. And I like books about women who don't conform to societal standards. I think that this one is similar to Convenience Store Woman in that sense. It's 30, 40-year-old women who are just like, no, I'm not gonna do what you tell me to do. If you're looking for a book to read in a sitting during a blizzard, that might be a nice one. Again, not introspective, just really freaking fun. The last book I would like to recommend to you all that feels like the winter and that feels like a hug is Feelings, A Story in Seasons by Manjit Thapp. I read it in the summer a couple of years ago on the beach. I just love it. It captures a South Asian woman's feelings throughout the seasons. You get to see how she copes with whatever life throws her way. The illustrations are really beautiful, and this is just a good pick-me-up. I feel like I'm overdue for a reread, and I cannot recommend it enough. The art is also stunning. I have actually bought prints of hers in the past because she's just so talented. So yeah, if you're ever in your feelings, read Feelings. So now for my TBR. Again, I am all over the place in terms of genres, but I think that the winter is a really, really good time to tackle books that you are intimidated by. And I happen to be intimidated by Toni Morrison. I have not read her as an adult yet. I have tried to start some books and I always feel like inadequate. And so I absolutely want to read SULA, which was on my 23 books for 2023, and I haven't started it. So with all of Toni Morrison's books, you have to read them slowly. You have to take your time with them so you can appreciate the language. I'm really looking forward to actually starting this one. This one is about the titular SULA and her friend. SULA is a pariah in the community, and her friend Nell is a pillar of the community. And so we get to see how their friendship changes and how trust is broken, perhaps. I really love books about friendship. I want to do a vlog that is themed about friendship, and so I feel like this one is hopefully going to be one that I really, really love. Another book that I am really looking forward to reading because I've gotten into classics by women is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I am in Boston. This book takes place in New England. It's about 4 sisters. I feel like everybody has watched at least one of the movies. I think I've watched 2, the one with Kristen Dunst and the one by Greta Gerwig. And so I feel like this is a book that I'm going to keep on my nightstand and read a little by little every night before I go to bed because it feels cozy and it feels like Christmas. And I really need to hustle and start it because it's almost that time. I will admit that I have been really into Ellen Montgomery, who is the author of Anne of Green Gables, and I started reading this one and I was like, oh no, maybe it's not as good as Ellen Montgomery's writing, but I just need to let it go and like get lost in it. I also am having a really hard time finding an audiobook for this one, so if you have any recommendations, let me know. I feel like none of them satisfy me, and a lot of them seem to be abridged or don't go in order for some reason. I want to be able to read through like the actual text first before I jump into reading like different adaptations of it. The third book I would like to read is Cold Enough for Snow by Jessica Au. Bibliosophie talked about this one in her Books for the Fall video, and this is a book that I have checked out of the library now 3 times. And I just think that it is probably going to be so good because it is about a mother-daughter relationship. It is set in Tokyo, and apparently it is a moving and simple book that has a lot to say. And it's also it's less than 100 pages. So I just need to bite the bullet and read it. So for the next one, I cheated because I already started it, and it is Wintering, The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times by Katherine May. I feel like the title says what it's about, and in this book, essentially the author compares going through difficult times with the winter time and how in nature animals prepare for the winter. They just accept it. They don't try to fight the fact that winter is coming. And life is cyclical, right? We have our ups, we have our downs, we have our winters. And sometimes when things go wrong, like when you're sick or someone dies or you're going through a difficult time, you need to find ways to make sure that you recharge and that you find ways to find joy in little comforts. I'm only like 30 pages in, but I thought that this book was going to focus a lot on like the psychology of seasonal depression and all that stuff. I thought it was going to be research heavy, and it's very much a narrative, and I'm really enjoying that aspect of it. It's very, very readable. I heard the audiobook is amazing, but I kind of want to read it physically because I just like picking it up, reading a chapter, putting it down, reflecting on what I read. It's such a comfort to read this, especially for those of us who struggle with seasonal blues. And the last book that I have, I bought at the Montague Book Mill. I went there with Kat from Lit with Kat. We had so much fun. We went in the summer, and I was like, this book sounds good. I want to support this indie bookstore. And it's a suspenseful book about a woman who is traveling to Greenland. I think it might be dystopian, but like that's besides the point. I think it has to do with climate change and thinking about yourself and reflecting on difficult situations in really cold environments. I guess the author of this book is Australian, Charlotte McConaghy. 'Tis the season to read atmospheric books. I don't know what to expect for this one, but I do want to get lost in it, like cuddle up in a big blanket and read it. So that's it. Those are the books. If you've read any of the ones I plan on reading, let me know which one I should prioritize. If you have any recommendations, particularly any like cozy fantasy books, I think that those are the ones I don't read as much. I would love those recommendations, or any book that you feel like encapsulates a feeling of the winter. Thanks so much and have a lovely day. Peace.